Welcome back to the discussion, Emerging Trends in Federal Data Analytics, sponsored by Alteryx on Federal News Network. My guest today is Alan Jacobson, Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Alteryx. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy. You know, I went to YouTube and looked up several of your videos, and I wanted to pigeonhole you into the area of finance, because I think of business intelligence, analytics, complex data sets, you know, importance of information, and I couldn't. I tried. I mean, everything. I couldn't pigeonhole you. I mean, there's cybersecurity, there's aerospace maintenance, there's transportation. I mean, what kind of range do you folks cover?
So really, it is hard to suggest one area where Alteryx is most used, because we really are used across pretty much every segment of business. As you mentioned, we're being used by manufacturing companies, aircraft companies, HR analytics, finance, really every aspect of a business and in every industry. And the same thing is happening within the government. We see use across really every sector of the government. I think a lot of that is because the basic tools and the basic processes are really the same. The numbers really don't know what domain they're a part of. And the skills of being able to process HR data and the ability to process legal data is very similar. But this also gets to why self-service becomes really important, and that is the expertise of those domains is really the differentiator. To be able to get great outcomes, it's not simply being able to understand the math, it's being able to understand the context and the business. And so taking a great software platform that is capable across all those different domains and combining it with the domain expertise of today's knowledge worker is really where, again, the magic happens.
So the domain expertise allows you to ask the right questions at the beginning.
Absolutely, absolutely. Such a critical part as well, and many people miss this kind of key ingredient of domain knowledge.
You know, if I fired up my computer and went to Google and typed in predictive, I'm sure it would autofill analytics. Predictive analytics.
Absolutely.
So what about predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics with Alteryx?
Yeah, so both of those are tools in the arsenal, and really it starts even a step before that with descriptive analytics. So we typically start by bringing data together and kind of understanding descriptively, what does it say? What happened, really telling the story of the past. And then frequently we'll move into predictive analytics, what might happen next, predicting the future, forecasting. And then prescriptive, trying to prescribe what you might do next. What's the next best action that you might take based on all of this data? And so all three of those are tools in the arsenal: descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive techniques, and fully capable within the Alteryx platform.
So when people toss about this term automation all the time, they may use your tool to come up with some kind of, to prescribe if, then do this.
Absolutely.
In a workflow.
Absolutely, and so, you know, when we think of analytic automation, it's well beyond maybe the traditional automation that many of us think about going to IT to help us do. And in the old way of doing automation, it was like the record macro. I have a certain process. I simply want to record the process to automate it, so I don't have to do it every morning at 7 a.m. So if I came in and went into a system and pulled certain data and then did certain things and then output it to another system, I could automate that process. That was maybe the last generation of how we automated things. With analytic processes, we're really trying to get to things like next best action. Hey, based on the data, there are a myriad of things that I could do, but based on this analysis, here's the next best thing I should do, and really to be able to automate that into a process. Very, very different.
And the automation seems like it's flipping a switch. No. It's flipping several switches, but there has to be a human component of this whole automation and predictive and prescriptive analytics, isn't there?
Yeah, certainly there's an author of it, and that's one piece of automation. And frequently we don't fully automate a process, we augment the human in the loop. And so in many processes, we're recommending an action, we're showing detailed data, and a human ultimately is making the decision. And depending on the type of process and the type of analytic, it is sometimes, you know, beneficial to fully automate it, and other times it's beneficial to augment the person.
When I hear the word analysis, I keep thinking of financial terms or financial concepts. But in the federal government, there's lots of different types of analysis. NASA does one type of analysis, FEMA does one type of analysis, If we go over the river, we'll find people in the intelligence community that does analysis, and then the people in the DoD do completely different type of analysis. What you're suggesting is that, there may be varieties and types of analysis, but it can be almost formed or structured in a certain manner to make it more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the techniques are similar across those, but you're right, each domain has some nuances to it, and they're just incredible use cases in the government. One of the recent ones that I just saw was with the VA, taking historic data on troop movement and looking at where there might be probabilities of chemical exposures. And so to be able to take that data and geospatially analyze it and do probabilistic analysis, again, it may be slightly a different domain than the Department of Defense or cybersecurity would do in other scenarios, but there are similarities to it as well.
So when you take the term spatial information, it can be applied in the commercial area, perhaps for shoppers in the store, but spatial information can be applied to the DoD for chemical attacks, and spatial information can be important for diagnosing satellites in space or where they happen to be for NASA. It seems to be such a range.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even in that first example with FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security after a hurricane. In case after case, we find that geospatial data is very important. And it's another differentiator between today's spreadsheet and what you can do with modern analytic tools. It would be very hard to analyze geospatial data in a spreadsheet. And again, it's child's play in the case of Alteryx with my 11 and 13-year-old easily able to do that kind of analysis today.
So if you sit down with a federal CIO, what's the biggest challenges they have in understanding the data that's presented in front of them?
So before I jump into the challenge, I think they have incredible assets at their disposal. The workforce that the federal government has is an incredible workforce. So they have amazing people. We have amazing algorithms and software now at our disposal. We have incredible computers, and really it's about how do you unleash that workforce? How do you free them to be able to change the processes, to be able to leverage these new technologies to really get at the benefits?
I'd like to thank today's guest, Alan Jacobson, Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Alteryx. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy, and you're listening to Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, please visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Data Analytics Month.